In spring 2016, Dr. Mackey's AP English class wrote research papers on Islamic fundamentalism and how the Muslim community is perceived and treated in the US. The project was eye-opening for many of us, and we felt that the rest of the Central community needed to be involved in a broader conversation about what is going on in the world and how we interact with the Muslim population here in Springfield. We have created this video to start a conversation here at Central. This is the power of an idea.
Being an American citizen, you're protected by the rights of the Constitution.
I also want to bring in people that have experience in dealing with different cultures.
Talk to us and ask us questions. I'm sure we're not going to be afraid to answer.
They're very, very good people.
People who are meant to do harm prey upon people that are ignorant.
To begin a conversation, it is important that we start with a common understanding of what Islam is. In the year 610, while meditating in the cave of Mount Hira at Makkah, the first 5 verses of the Quran were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad by the Archangel Gabriel. He was 40 years old. For the next 23 years, the Quran was revealed in parts. The Quran summarizes the 6 basic beliefs and 5 pillars of Islam. The 5 pillars of Islam are Shahada, the belief that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The second pillar is Salah, which requires praying 5 times a day. The third, Zakat, is giving alms to the poor. The fourth, Sawm, is fasting in the month of Ramadan from sunrise to sunset. And the fifth, Hajj, which is making the pilgrimage to Mecca if one can afford it. The 6 major beliefs are the belief that Allah is the one and only God, the belief in the angels, the holy books, the prophets and messengers, the day of judgment, and in predestination. The Prophet was an honest and trustworthy man. He is a role model for all Muslims. A true Muslim follows the examples and good qualities of the Prophet. After the death of the Prophet, there was a disagreement on who should lead the Muslim community. The 2 groups, Shia and Sunnis, emerged from this conflict. The Shia believed that only the family line of the Prophet should lead the Muslim community, while the Sunnis believe anyone that is capable can lead the Muslim community. The majority of the Muslims are Sunnis. Whether a Muslim is a Sunni or Shia, they must follow the Quran and the way of the Prophet in order to be a true Muslim. ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, is a jihadist group based in Iraq. It is also known as ISIL, Daesh, and Islamic State. Emerging from the radical Wahhabi fundamentalist ideology taught in Saudi Arabia, the same ideology that gave rise to Al-Qaeda, the group claims to practice the purest form of Islam. Wahhabi teaching says that society should look exactly as it did in the time of the Prophet, and its followers engage in many practices that modern society rejects as barbaric and medieval. Manipulating verses from the Quran, ISIS and similar fundamentalist jihadist group declare their violence justified. ISIS has declared itself a caliphate, claiming to be the only legitimate successor of the Prophet Muhammad and the leader of all Sunnis. The group's ultimate aspiration is to create a sovereign Islamic state. In order to accomplish the goal, ISIS engages in terrorist attacks both in the Middle East and around the world. Using this tactic works for them in 2 ways. 1. The group will rid the Middle Eastern countries of non-Muslims. In the eyes of ISIS, a utopian territory consists of only Muslims. Harming and killing other Muslims is part of the plan. These groups believe that anyone who is not following their brand of Wahhabi Islam is not a true Muslim, and so can be killed in jihad. The Quran states, whoever kills an innocent person, it is as if he has killed all of humanity. Therefore, ISIS is not an Islamic belief, and they are not Muslims, so they don't represent Islam.
They don't appreciate the kind of struggles that a lot of us have had to go through, that our parents have gone through to immigrate to this country, to escape from all of the different wars and conflicts and corruption that go on. And so I feel that when it steps a certain boundary, you have to say something.
The Quran states that a man should not kill. In doing so, he breaks one of the tenets of the Islamic faith. ISIS claims to want to restore God's rule and defend Muslims, but they're endangering Muslims all across the world. 2. Large-scale terrorist attacks on Western countries are a flashy display of ISIS's strength. ISIS is gaining massive media attention. Outlets are covering scenes and cases dealing with them every day. Social media is rapidly emerging news feeds about the group, drawing worldwide attention. ISIS gains its followers by the hundreds. Terrorism feeds into this in a couple of ways. Some young Muslims are tricked by an illusion of what ISIS is not and voluntarily seek to join the group. But the terrorism also leads Western countries to alienate and reject Muslim populations living within their borders. This alienation just fosters more frustration and pushes these populations into the arms of the only ones they feel will accept them, the very terrorists responsible for their alienation. ISIS wants to use this new generation that is flocking to its borders to establish its control in the region and create its state. The group ultimately wants to expand its army and to establish a territory which all Muslims around the world will call home. On the way there, the group murders anyone in its path, including Muslims. Breaking one of the fundamental tenets, the group still claims to follow the true Muslim faith, causing uneducated individuals in society to blame Muslims in general for the actions of extremists. We cannot continue to allow people to use the Muslim population as a scapegoat because ISIS is still out there raising havoc. Forging a wall between Western society and the Muslim population doesn't solve anything. By forging the wall, we are creating more paranoia. Many people don't understand the difference between a Wahhabist fundamentalism and a mainstream Muslim. And by alienating all Muslims, we feed right into the terrorist goals.
I feel disrespected because I'm being judged of something supposedly I am, but am not. So, yeah.
And do you feel safe in Central High School?
Yeah, I feel safe in Central High School.
What about outside of Central High School?
Not that safe. Not that safe, but I still do feel some sort of safeness, but not as much as I do in school.
Every time, like the Paris attack, it's just personally being looked, like when people, I feel like people feel unsafe when that happens, because sometimes I'm taking the bus, like people like look down at me as in like I don't, like with stares, you can feel it there. Like the incident when that bombing that week happened, even our parents told us not to take the bus or like be alone or go outside, because it was just like you can't even trust people anymore, even though you know like people are not capable of that. Even though people are scared of the Muslims are actually trying to be safe themselves, trying to protect themselves, but people just don't realize that.
We are the next generation. We have knowledge literally at our fingertips, and it is our responsibility to be educated, to expand our awareness and help these people feel safe and protected within our country's limits. Because yes, that girl wearing the hijab noticed you staring, and she noticed how you close yourself off from her. We've been taught from the beginning to never judge a book by its cover, and yet look at where we are now. In a survey conducted at Central High School, out of 86 responses, only 34 people correctly identified that ISIS is an acronym that means Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And out of 96 answers, only 32.3% said that they discussed current world events in class.
It needs to be raised.
Yeah.
I think you should always try to incorporate what you're learning
Exactly.
to real world activities, because it makes it more relevant, and you know, if the kids know that it's relevant, I believe they'll be more apt to pay attention and actually, you know, get something out of it.
Definitely my soccer team, I could definitely call them my family. And my track team, I can definitely call them my family too, because they accept what I am.
There were some students who did not want to be identified, but wanted their stories told. Here are the stories. This year in math class, I had my gym duffel bag, and there was this kid who called me a terrorist and accused me of having a bomb in it, all because of the way I looked. People say don't judge a book by its cover, and this kid was doing exactly that. He was judging me for how I looked and not for who I was. This kid was my own teammate. Another time, the same student called me a terrorist after school while we were changing. I didn't really say anything to him, but I told myself if he did it the third time, I will tell an administrator. The kid didn't do it again, so I ended up keeping it to myself. I was really hurt from this kid's comment because we were teammates and I didn't expect that from someone that is on my team. In my world history class, we had a sub, and there was this kid who repeatedly called me a terrorist. At first, I just let him go for it. But after a while, I couldn't take it anymore, so I told my homeroom teacher. My homeroom teacher told an administrator. The administrator took care of it and put the student in house. After that, he never did it again. People can't really tell I am a Muslim. So in class and outside of class, when the topic of Islam comes up, I constantly hear terrorist jokes and bombing jokes. The topic sometimes comes up when a Muslim student with the hijab walks by. Unaware that a Muslim is listening, students carelessly say terrible jokes that anger me because this is my religion they are talking about. Sometimes I would say it's not funny to the jokes, but other times I don't say anything. We need to step out of our comfort zones and start the long-avoided discussion about current events and how they affect our community. We must have a connection with the Muslim community, accept them, and establish a relationship that will help unite us.